Hi, and welcome to Wild and Woke Podcast, where every Monday we talk true crime, conspiracies, paranormal phenomena, and everything weird or unexplained. We're your hosts. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Susan.
And here we go. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Great. I mean, I'm good. I'm speaking for Susan. Wow, I'm like, we're great.
We're great. No, I'm good.
Good. It's nice to meet you both.
You
Thanks
too.
for having me on.
Definitely. Okay, so before we do anything, I don't watch The Bachelor. Susan doesn't watch The Bachelor.
I don't watch The Bachelor either.
Okay.
But a new season just started yesterday, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's The Bachelor or The Bachelorette?
It's The Bachelor. That started yesterday.
Do you only do The Bachelor, or do you do The Bachelorette too?
I do anything in that franchise. So Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, whatever ABC's putting out, I'm watching it.
I just have a few questions. So is it too late? Is it too late to get started if I want to get into The Bachelor? If I start this season, I can still know what's going on.
Yeah, it's never too late. So, yeah, I would say if you wanted to start, you can start. I mean, a lot of times they bring in, whoever they're going to make The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, they bring in a person that's been on a previous season. But this would actually be a good place for you to start because Matt James, the new Bachelor, has never been on the show before.
Okay.
So he is tied to the franchise in that his best friend was a runner-up on a previous season of The Bachelorette. And he kind of gained some fame from that. So,
yeah.
A pretty boy.
Yeah.
See, that's not my thing.
Most of them are.
I think that's why I've never really been interested because not once have I looked at the man and been like, oh, yes, him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all very clean cut.
They're nice. They're good looking dudes.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just they're very much 80s movie rich boy pretty boys.
Yeah, they are. And so with the Bachelor franchise, it's I enjoy watching it, but I also hate it at the same time. It's a love-hate. There's a lot of things wrong with it that I call out and critique, as do many other people that watch the show and podcast about it. But yeah, it's it is a pretty ridiculous show for the most part.
See, that's kind of the only way I can watch things like that is if I'm just straight up making fun of it the whole time.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we do. I don't know the name of the show. What's the nature guy? His name's Bear something.
Bear Grylls.
Yeah. Bear Grylls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I cannot, if that show is on, even in the background, if I hear it out of the just peripheral hearing, I will immediately just start roasting him. It's a natural reaction to his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Which
that's pretty much all reality TV for me is like that. It's there's always those elements you can make fun of, or most of it is what you can make fun of.
Yeah. When you're doing a Bachelor episode, because you put it out the next day, right?
Yeah.
So are you recording while it's happening?
No, so while the show is on, I'm usually taking notes either on my phone or if I have the chance to get my laptop out, I will. That's usually easier because I can type faster on the computer. Mm-hmm. I'm taking notes while I'm watching the show, and I have a 10-month-old son who makes that very challenging.
Not easy.
So, and I have 2 dogs too, so it's always chaos, and I have to pause it a lot, but then that's okay because then I can fast forward the commercials for the most part.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm always taking notes while I'm watching the show, and now I've gotten in the swing of things where I kind of know the way that it's going to play out and the setup of the show. So I'm all right, we got to focus on this, and this, and then I take the notes, and then we stay up very late after our son goes to bed to record our episodes.
But your husband helps you?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is super awesome. Is he part of the pod? Is he part of everything?
Yeah. So he is part of for sure the Bachelor and pop culture stuff that I do. Previously, when I first started the podcast, I had my sister on for a lot of the paranormal episodes that I was doing. But she is a teacher, so her schedule is just like very busy all the time.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of shifting into having my husband kind of be like a regular. I'm not going to call him a co-host, but you know,
a regular collaborator,
a regular guest.
Yeah, you don't need that level of commitment yet. I mean, you're already married.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, he'll be joining me for more paranormal episodes, I think, in the future. And then I'm going to start bringing guests on and do more collaborations because that's really fun. That's what I love about, you know, after starting the podcast. It's like I've met so many people and that I would never talk to if I hadn't started. So I love that.
Yeah, the podcasting community is really awesome with collaborations because you don't have to do it just in your genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, we're doing a collab with you and you do Bachelor stuff, and then we're doing one next in 2 weeks, I think, with like a lifestyle
that's
podcast,
fun.
which will be really fun. So, yeah, it's a good community.
Yeah, it's been great.
Do we all have our own ghost stories?
I do.
Sure.
I have one. Okay. You would think I'd have more because I'm really into ghosts and creepy stuff, but I really only have one true story like that I've experieed.
Okay.
I have one like solid ghost story, and then we can also kind of talk about my house if we want to.
Yeah.
Because it's an old house, right?
Yeah, it was built in 1926.
Oh,
So it's got some baggage.
It's got some years on it.
That's really cool.
I definitely wouldn't call it like a ghost story. So, but we can definitely talk about kind of what I've experienced here.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Abby?
Sure, I will. Okay, so this was on my honeymoon, actually. So we went to Las Vegas, which is not really like a traditional honeymoon spot.
I feel like that's a little bit of your personality.
Yeah, we wanted to do something different, and it's funny because we're both not big partiers or drinkers anymore. Like I don't drink anymore, but back then I did, and like back then we were like into, you know, the whole scene of Las Vegas, and we had always wanted to go there, so that's why we chose that spot for our honeymoon. And we were there for a while. I think we stayed for like 6 days, which is way too long to stay in Las Vegas, let me tell you. It was long and it was hot, and by the end of that I was like so ready to get out of there. But we tried to mix it up by going on like different sightseeing things, and not just like, you know, hanging by the pool and going out. That we did that too, and like gambling and stuff. But we decided to go on a ghost hunt. Now this was, of course, all my idea. So I had seen on an episode of Ghost Adventures, they went to a place called the Pioneer Saloon, which is kind of 20 miles, maybe even more outside of the city. It's pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And coincidentally, I had seen that episode like right when we were planning our trip. And I was like, I want to go to this place. This looks cool. I wonder if they do like ghost tours or whatever. So I looked it up and they did. And I signed us up. And so the day comes that we're going to go on this ghost hunt. And we had to meet at one of the other hotels and like wait for a van to pick us up.
Which has to be the moment that you're like, am I going on a ghost tour or am I potentially being kidnapped?
Yeah, it was kind of sketchy looking back.
For the ride.
Just happy to be here.
Yeah, we were happy to be there. It was, and the hotel we were waiting in was even like super creepy. It was like really old and looked kind of abandoned. So that was just another bizarre thing. And oh, by the way, this was almost 7 years ago now. We got married in 2014. So it was a while back. And so we're waiting to get picked up, and this woman comes in and she's like, oh, it's just you two? So, like, this whole setup is just like, seems like a horror film. And we're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, it's just us. And she's like, all right, I guess we'll just wait a few more minutes and see if anyone else shows up, and then we'll head out to the desert. I'm like, okay. So it was just this woman and who was like the tour guide, and then the driver, and his name was Ruben. And the only reason I remember that is because he was like shouting his name to try to get the ghosts to say his name when we got to the actual place we were going. So that was really something. But then we get out there and like it was pretty cool.
I feel like I need an example of how he was yelling. I feel like I need you to do that.
Oh, I will. I will get to it.
We will get there.
Oh, yeah. We will get there. So we get out there and it's like kind of like a bar and a little general store, and there was really not a lot of people out there. I mean, this was really like middle of nowhere type situation, middle of the desert. And we go in and I think we had like a beer, and we just like, then they started the tour, and part of the tour was inside where supposedly there had been a lot of shootings, like a lot of like old Western style, conflict went down, I guess, like, like a movie pretty much. Like they were playing poker and like people would cheat and then they would just like kill each other over the game.
I still think it's crazy that people lived like that was like a thing. That was a norm.
Yeah. Still how Las Vegas pretty much.
I've never been there. I don't know.
In my head, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah, it's like the Wild West. But yeah, it really was like that. And you could still see like the bullet holes in the wall, which was pretty creepy. And then also Carol Lombard, who was a famous actress in like the 1940s, I believe. She actually died in a plane crash right outside of the area that we were in, the Pioneer Saloon. And they had, I think, brought her body back there after they recovered stuff from the crash. So they have pictures of her like all over the place. And she's said to haunt the women's bathroom. So when I went in there, I went to use the bathroom. I was like, Carol, are you in here? I was a little freaked out, but it really wasn't that bad. It definitely just felt like an old building, a very historic feeling. But the sighting of the ghost that I encountered didn't even happen until the outside part of the tour. So there was a couple other kind of like rundown buildings and structures around the area, and they had brought us just like to walk around. And then there was some area that they said that someone got possessed over there, and they're like, do you want to walk over there? And I was like, I think I'm good.
I would have said yes.
That's possession. Just as smart.
I'm not trying to get possessed on my honeymoon here. Like, this is supposed to be all fun, So it wasn't until we were walking and we were on like a dirt road pretty much. And they were like, oh, there have been sightings of shadow people and, figures, apparitions on this road. So just like keep an eye out if you see anything, because it happens a lot. And so I, of course, was like open to seeing a ghost, and I wanted to. I just didn't think that I actually would.
I think that's how it always goes.
Yeah, like I was excited about it, but I was really like, I'm probably not going to see anything. Kind of like when I don't know if you all have ever been on like a celebrity tour, and like if you've ever been to Hollywood, they do like TMZ tours where you go on a bus and they try to go around and find celebrities.
I've never been. I've never been
Yeah.
over to that side of the country, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't really been that many places, but I've been to California probably the most of anywhere. So I've done many of those like TMZ tours, and I'm always like, maybe this is the time I'm going to see a celebrity, but I never do. I've literally never seen anyone.
And I feel like they make it seem like you see a celebrity every single time, or like multiple celebrities.
Yeah. They always like hype you up like, oh, this is a perfect time of day to go. They're really out and about, shopping or doing whatever at this time.
Zoo animals, like it's close to feeding time. We're here at a good moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every time I've met a celebrity, it's been like the most random place, like not that you would be looking for celebrities.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I think it is with ghosts. Like, I really was not expecting to see anything that out of the ordinary when I went on this ghost hunt. So what happened was we were walking on this dirt road, and all of a sudden I looked over and I saw like a mist, but it was the shape of a person, and it was walking like I know listeners can't see my arms, but it was like it was like doing a motion. It was like this.
I feel like we need to record just that part.
No kidding. Just screen grab that.
Yeah. Like it was like, you know, like if you find like a murder scene and the outline of the person was like, it was like that. It was like their arms were in that position. But it was the shape of a person, but it was a mist. It was a white mist. And it was like unlike anything I'd ever seen before. So I knew like that was something. It was not a fog. It wasn't like, you know, when someone's doing laundry and like the smoke, the dryer lint or whatever,
Yeah.
the mist. It wasn't like that. It was similar in the way that it was that color, but it wasn't like, it was like really in the shape of a person. So, I was pretty scared. I grabbed my husband's arm and I was like, oh my God, Aaron, did you see that? And he's like, no, like, of course he didn't see it. So
he's probably not even looking for ghosts. Jeez.
No, he was just like along for the ride, you know, which is what he is. He is in life with me. He's along for the ride of the weirdness that I put him through.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that was that. And like, then the part with Ruben, our driver, after all of this, now I had already, that was enough for me. I was like, okay, I saw a ghost. We saw some bats flying around. I was like, this is enough. I think I'm done for the day. But no, there was more. We went back to the like saloon part, and they have us in a separate room where somebody did get murdered in that room, like back in the old Western days. And they were going to do a seance sort of a thing. So they like turn the lights down and they give you like little ghost meters and these like sticks that they cross if like the energy manipulates them. Dowsing rods, yes. And so we have pictures of like us holding these sticks and like with our little, you know, electromagnetic readers and all of that. And we had to like control ourselves from laughing because the Ruben guy, he was just like screaming with the sticks, and he was like, well, then we did like an EVP, like we were trying to get EVPs, and he was like screaming into the device, and he was like, say Ruben, Ruben.
That was amazing.
So worth the wait.
Wait, was Ruben part of the ghost thing, or was he was just along for the...
He was the driver but he participated. Like, he was our driver, but he like wanted to be a part of it. So they're just like, sure, Ruben, you can join us.
So, yeah. That's crazy.
I know. So we still like, you know, quote that to this day. Like anytime we watch paranormal shows quite a bit, but if it comes up like anything about that specific place, we're always like, say Ruben.
So did you get anything on the EVPs?
I don't think we did. No, it was kind of a letdown, but I saw, you know, had seen enough. I had seen what I believe to be a ghost. So I'm like, I'm satisfied with this.
Right.
That's amazing.
That's way more than I've ever seen on an official ghost tour.
Yeah. And that's really the only ghost tour I've really like official one I've ever gone on. So I guess I got lucky.
You did. I feel like you did, because when you go on those, you're not expecting. I mean, like, of course you're looking around, but you're not like expecting anything. Mine was actually on a ghost tour too. It was in St. Augustine.
Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna tell my story.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Okay. It was our first year of marriage anniversary. I don't know why I just did that. I don't know why I just said it like that. And so we wanted to go to St. Augustine, and we did the same thing. We stayed for way too long. We stayed like 6 days, and I'm a huge planner, but my husband, he's not super into planning, so he didn't want to schedule things out because he's like, well, I don't know how we'll feel. Mm-hmm. But we were getting really bored. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I want to do a ghost tour. And he knows I'm into weird shit, like conspiracy theories and ghosts. And he's like, it's like we're going to pay this amount of money and it's going to be horrible. But we did it. And we couldn't go till like 9:00 at night. And we met at a strip mall. And this woman had like the smallest, it was literally you walked in and you could not fit 5 people in this room. And that's the whole office. And so we walked in, and people start piling in, and it's hot. There's no air in there.
No.
There's like 10 of us. Oh yeah. There's like 10 of us in this little room, and then she walks in, and I don't know if this was like a setup and she does this every single time, but there was somebody in the group that was like, "Hey, I recognize you. Aren't you a medium?" And she was like, "Yeah, I don't really like to talk about it." And immediately I was like, all right. So this
You're
person,
like, "Oh, but you do like to talk."
Yes.
Don't you?
So I was like, okay, so this is like a friend of yours who comes along on every tour.
Mm-hmm.
So then she started talking about it, even though she didn't want to. And
here's my card, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Right, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, she was really awesome, and I think she did have some capabilities, but she could have played it a different way. So she explains where we're going to go and what we're going to do, and she hands us all a little pendant. They're all different, and they're all like attached to a leather thing, and she says, tie this somewhere on you, somewhere where it's not going to like fall off while you're walking. And she's like, if I were you, I would knot it like 4 or 5 times. And so I put mine on my belt. No, I put mine on my backpack, and my husband put his on his hat, I think. I'm not sure. So then we all get in this bus and we go to the first place. And she's just kind of talking to us about what types of spirits there are, a little bit more about what she's capable of, even though she didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
And we get to this well, and she sets up like toys, like a bouncy ball and a doll, and like a noise making toy, and then an EVP thing. And she has us all stand in a circle. And oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. She had somebody act really crazy to see, because it was 2 kids that supposedly haunted this area. And so she had somebody act really, really silly. And she had everybody in the group do it, but the last person that did it, as he was acting silly, his pendant flew off of his belt loop.
Oh my God.
Like, he had knotted it 5 times, because we all stood there and like watched each other do it, and like flew off of his belt loop. And at that point, I'm like, it's haunted up in here. This is real. My husband's like, oh, it's probably just, he always has some kind of like logical explanation. And I looked at him, I said, let me have this. Like, let me have this moment.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
There's more, but that's absolutely crazy. And she did the EVP, and I want to believe those so bad. But hers was like an app.
Oh yeah, those are hard to
I think about that. Because like it's like the ghost photography app. Like, there's a whole app for taking pictures that look like they have weird like figures in them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I really trust all of that. I've had a few or tried a couple different of those ghost apps. It's never like the best ones that are out there, and they're very clearly like fake.
Yeah, and I mean, we heard kids' voices, and we heard, one man's voice repeatedly, but it's like cross radio waves. So it's just, I didn't really believe that.
Was she doing EVPs, or was it a spirit box?
Oh, you know what?
That sounds like a spirit box.
Spirit box, yeah, that's what it was.
Those are fascinating to me. I think I would have to like try it myself to know whether or not I felt like it was just being manipulated.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we did that, and then we went to a few other locations. It was really just, she was showing us like really, really old historical houses. One of them, she had us like go look in the window. She showed us a picture that another tour person had taken years ago, and it was like a person in the window. So we all went and looked in the window. And at that point, like, I'm still thinking about the pendant. I'm still like talking to my husband nonstop about it. And he's like, I can't believe I decided to do this. It's like 1:00 in the morning. She talked so much. I mean, when we were at one location, we were there for probably like an hour.
Wow.
with her like talking and manipulating things. So we get to this last place, and it's the actual lighthouse in St. Augustine, which is supposedly the most haunted part of St. Augustine. We couldn't go in because they do their own ghost tours. But we sat at the park across the street, and it's 3 a.m. the like best time. And she has us all go off on our own. She said that one tree in the park has a ton of energy surrounding it. And she's like, just walk around and see if you can like feel the energy, and then come back and I'll tell you which tree it is and we'll see who's right. So we did that. She gave us, maybe it was the EVPs at this point. She gave us each something like a meter. Is that what the EVP is?
An EVP is usually like you use a digital voice recorder, and it's like the electronic voice phenomenon is like when you record it and you don't hear anything, but when you play it back, it's recorded. Like, I guess the theory is that it can somehow interact with the device, even though you can't actually audibly hear it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what she gave us, but anyway, so she gave us something. We all went around and did that. Came back and sat at the picnic table. I didn't get the tree right that I thought had all the energy. I like went up to it and touched it. I was really into it at this point. I like touched the tree. I was like, speak to me, spirit.
You're meditating on each tree.
Yeah, meditating on each tree. I was also really stoned at this point. My husband was like,
I was just about to say, and you were how high?
Well, my husband was like the chaperone, so I was gonna have a good time. Yeah. So we all go sit back at the picnic table. She gives us our dowsing rods. And she brings out the toys again, like dolls, and we each have our little pendant thing. And I've never used those rods before. So I still don't even really know how they work. You said it's like energies crossing, moving them.
So it's like spirits are supposed to be able to manipulate they're usually made out of copper, I believe, because that's like can conduct energy the best. So whatever electromagnetic energy or whatever spirits are made of, they're supposedly able to like manipulate those pretty easy. But it's also like you have to think about the very subtle movements that the human is making when they're holding them that could also potentially cause them to like move around different ways and stuff.
But they also use dowsing rods to find wells.
What? Really? I didn't know that.
Pretty accurately, actually.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
That's crazy. Cool. I feel like you always have such a random fact, and I love that about you. So that's what she told us. She's
a trove of useless trivia.
She said that the rods, there was human error, so she made us like put had them in our hands. Again, the listeners can't see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We had them in our hands, and she had us like put our forearms and our hands all on the table, so there was really no like shaking. There was still wiggle room, but there was no shaking. And then she said, just talk to the spirits. There was a little girl, a little boy, and an old man. I think he was like an old lighthouse keeper. And so I started talking to the little girl, and my thing started moving.
Wow.
Like a lot.
And you know that you weren't doing it. It was like...
Yeah, I know I wasn't doing it because I was, like I said, I was really fucking into it at this point. Like, I was invested. And my husband was right there next to me, and he's such a skeptic person. He was like, that's fucking weird. Because they were, every time I would say like point one rod to the doll, and that like one rod would go to the doll, and I'd say make an X, and they would make an X, and then I'd say point both rods to the doll, and they'd both point to the doll. Wow. And then I said the other little boy's name, and I said point to the little boy, and it pointed to the guy diagonal from me.
Wow.
And I just got chills like as that was happening. I felt like I'm not doing this. Nobody else's rods are moving. The one I have. So then I was like, the medium said that she was attracted to me because I was on the edge of the table and I was right next to her doll that she wanted to play with, which kind of creeped me out.
It just gives you that like feeling like something's up behind you, and like it just gives you the shivers, right? Like, ugh.
It was definitely strange. And then we started to do our pendant. I think that's what they're called.
Pendulum.
I don't know if they pendulum, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, put your arm down, make sure that you're not like wobbling, and just hold it still. And if there's an energy or something, I'm trying to remember what she's telling me. If there's an energy around, it'll start to move. You can say, move it counterclockwise, clockwise. And I did it, and every single time it would literally stop and spin the other way. Like, I've never had anything like that happen to me before.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And a guy kind of down at the other end of the table had that same experience, but it was with the older man, like the old lighthouse keeper. I don't know. That was pretty cool. And then as we're leaving, it's like 4 a.m.
This is a very long tour. That was like 7 hours long.
I mean, it was definitely worth the money. I got it on, I think I actually got it on Airbnb because that's who we did our stay through, and they kind of have experiences you can do. And she had 5 stars, like over hundreds of ratings. So anyway, she was awesome. As we're leaving, let me backtrack a little bit. When we get to the park, she tells us don't go over by the trash cans. And of course my husband's like, why?
Well, clearly that's where I need to go.
Yeah, right.
What's by the trash cans? Why can't I go over there? And she's like, it's dark over there. Like, the energy is very dark over there. And so my husband's like, well, I'm going to go over there.
Of course.
And he he's just messing with her, seeing if like it's real, if it's just fake. And as we're leaving, he's still kind of like talking to her a little bit about it. And she says, if you really want to know what's over there, I have a picture that I took. She said, I come out here sometimes because I'm a medium. One night I was out here at like 3 o'clock in the morning by myself. And she said she just felt this wave of like dark energy come towards her, and she turned around and she snapped a picture. And let me fucking tell you, I'm have chills thinking about it. The picture on her phone, it was insane. You saw the trees, everything looked super normal, and then in the trees there's these like red eyes.
Oh my god.
And I mean, like, I have chills.
It's Mothman.
It's Mothman.
I am thinking about that ghost picture app.
Yeah, and that could be the case, but we were already so deep into this.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband
at this point, she's got you.
Oh, yeah. And my husband at this point, like, the super skeptic he is, he saw the dowsing rods, and he was like, all right, like, there's some energy. I'm not going to say it's a ghost. Mm-hmm. He's like, there's some energy. So he was a little freaked out too. And then we all got in the van, and that was it. But it was awesome. I gave her 5 stars. I was like, I don't know if this is real. I want to think it is.
Yeah.
But you did an awesome job. Mm-hmm. If this was fake, you did an awesome job.
If it's fake, you're an excellent fake. Well worth the experience.
But so I didn't see anything. But
you felt it. And that's like,
it.
Yeah, that's big too. Because I've been in places where I felt things too. It's just, it's hard to like explain that to someone else because it's so real what you felt,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something we always say. Like, if someone comes to us and says they've had this experience, who are we to say that it's not real? Because we weren't there. So
I can question the elements of it. I can try to go back and say, could it have been something like this? Could it have been that? But at the end of the day, the experience is the experience.
Yeah.
And you can't quantify it. It just it exists.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
All right, let's hear your story.
So mine was weirdly it was on a tour, but it wasn't a ghost tour at all. It's in a historic house that's here in my hometown. And at the time, we have a preservation league that is basically just a, community group that tries to restore and maintain historic buildings. And my dad was on their board, and they were we did a historic home tour every year for Christmas. So the houses are always, totally decked out in Christmas decorations. And it was their kind of big fundraiser. So I was doing, the way we had it set up, you didn't actually like get walked through the houses. People basically, it was just kind of a show up when you show up. And we had people set up in various parts of the house to make sure that, you know, if people had questions or whatever, if there was something interesting to point out. So this house is called the Swenson House. It's the family that built it and lived in it. And I want to say it was built in the mid 1800s, but I would have to look.
Sorry.
Aww.
I would have to look, and I can, and look at, see exactly when it was built. But it's a very historic home here in town. So I was on the second, when you walk in the front door, it has kind of what you imagine of like the grand staircase that has like the fishtail shape. Mm-hmm. So when you walk in the door, that's what you see. And I was just upstairs. There's like 2 bedrooms upstairs, kind of on, as you walk up on the left side. And I was just kind of hanging out in that area. And we had a bunch of people in and out. And then I don't know if you guys have ever done stuff like that, but sometimes like all of a sudden it's just like it will be suddenly quiet. Like they've had tons of people, and then all of a sudden at the same time everyone just sort of goes away.
Yeah.
So it was really, really quiet. And I was just kind of wandering around looking at stuff. And I was actually in the bedroom that's like, if you walk up the stairs and turn left, there's a bedroom that's the first one. And I was in that bedroom, and I just kind of caught movement out of the corner of my eye. Mm. And so I walked out thinking somebody might have come up the stairs that I didn't see and gone the other direction. And initially I didn't see anybody. And then I looked towards the stairs, and there was someone going down the stairs. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you know, did you have any questions?" And she didn't react. And she was kind of like, she's moving down the stairs and I'm moving out of this bedroom all at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I kind of took a couple of steps towards the stairs, and I realized she's not there anymore.
Oh my God.
I didn't like have that experience where you like see it like just vanish. Mm-hmm. It was just like she was moving like where like she would have like been, I guess, maybe out of my line of sight. But then she should have still been either on the stairs or just like, you know.
Yeah, like she wouldn't have disappeared that quickly from where she was. Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember just kind of and this is years ago. I was probably 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. And I remember for a second, I just kind of stood there like, what the hell just happened? And I remember trying to figure out what about that was weird, because strangely, the fact that she was just gone wasn't actually the first thing that hit me. The first thing that hit me was I realized I couldn't hear her moving. Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was no sound. And then I started, and I mean, all of this is happening in like this fast.
like a second.
Fingers. Mm-hmm. And then I start trying to like immediately think, what did she look like? Mm-hmm. Because I immediately want to know, can I like find this person in historical pictures?
Oh, yeah.
This is where my head was when I was 13. Mm-hmm. So I remember, I'm going to tell this story this way because my dad remembers this one way and I remember it another way. And who the hell knows? You know, like, sometimes with memory stuff, it's like, I mean, we remember, he does not remember me coming to find him in the kitchen to tell him I had just seen a ghost. I absolutely remember that happening. And the other part of it that I remember is that his, a good friend of his, who was also part of that group, came into the kitchen about the time I did, but from the other direction, and described seeing the same thing.
Oh.
Just from a different angle. Like, we didn't see each other, but he also was saying he saw a woman that looked. I don't really remember how I described it. I don't remember how much detail I gave immediately, or if it was just like, I just saw a person that vanished.
Yeah. Was she, so you don't remember like if she was in like old timey clothing or like, it was pretty hard to tell.
A dress is what I remember, but and maybe a dress that would have fit the period. I kind of remember her having sleeves and the dress being long, because that's what I was thinking. Like, I should have been able to hear that dress touch the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her hair up, like in a bun maybe, or something like that. And she had, to me, it was like, after I thought about it, it was like, she was like, oh, the house looks so pretty, all dressed up for Christmas. And she was just like walking down her own stairs, like just so satisfied and admiring everything. Like, maybe just feeling the energy of there being, kind of a Christmas party atmosphere.
Yeah.
And we did go through and find some pictures. And while I didn't see her face, I definitely, the woman, the Mrs. Swenson, definitely could have been. Like, she was petite, kind of the right size. Looking at the pictures, I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say yeah, absolutely, but my instinct was that it was her because of the feeling that I had of her just being so, like, proud of her house.
Yeah. Happy to see that there was joy and people and having a nice time.
I always wonder if it was the Christmas decorations. Yeah, because I'm sure they had parties like that in that house.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a, kind of a society house. So I just, and it's like y'all said, it was more the feeling of it. I mean, yeah, I saw her, but it was like, that's not really what I most remember about it. What I most remember is that instant of going, oh shit, I just saw something.
Yeah.
So, and they do, so the people who, I guess, have control of that house now, I don't know who owns it, but they do events there all the time. And I was so bummed that this year COVID made me not get to go to their Halloween event.
Yeah.
But they do tons of events and stuff like that. And I actually have another friend who she didn't see anyone, but she had kind of a similar experience with the impression of someone who was very happy in that house and comfortable and just that pride, I guess.
Oh, well, that's good. I like to hear a happy ghost story.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
That's really cool. I believe you. I for sure think that you saw something, and especially you say that like psychic knowing feeling that you had. There's that instant knowing that you think that's what you saw.
Yeah, it was, and that was kind of, it was just like a, and it wasn't. I wasn't scared at all. I mean, I don't even think my brain had time to process fear, because it was just like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's weird.
Yeah.
I always think that if I saw a ghost, I wouldn't be scared. But I had something maybe like 6 months ago. My grandpa, who I'm very close with, died, but he died in 2016. But I think about him a lot, and I don't know if maybe Rich says I was thinking about him before I went to sleep, but I woke up and I felt like I was awake, and I looked over, and by my bed, I saw him in this outfit he always used to wear, and I grabbed Rich and looked over at him, and then I looked back and he was gone. And Rich was like, well, it's because it's just a dream, you thought about him before you went to sleep, but it just felt so real to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and who knows?
That's kind of like that. I'm going to be a Potter nerd for a minute. If everybody just go along.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the part in Harry Potter where Dumbledore does the Obi-Wan Kenobi moment with him. And he says something like, how do I know this isn't just all in my head? And Dumbledore says, well, of course it's all in your head, but why, or how do I know this is real? How do I know it's not just all in my head? And Dumbledore says, well, of course it's in your head, but why on earth would that mean it's not real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes something real versus not real?
Yeah. Yeah, because dreams feel real all the time.
Right.
So who's to say that's not just another dimension that you're in, that you're really experiencing those things?
I'm a huge believer of that being the thing that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, I love ghost stories. I love personal ghost stories.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm so glad we all had one. I mean, like I said, we can talk about this house. It's like I said, it's almost 100 years old.
Yeah.
What I've experienced in this house is mostly smells.
Cool.
When I first, the first probably 4 or 5 days that I was here full time, in the house, furniture was here, sleeping here, I had a cologne smell that would show up, and that was really when I very first moved in was the only time that it was really like noticeable.
What type of, like, was it an old cologne? Was it like a old man cologne? Rue 21? I mean, like.
Yeah, it smelled, I mean, I can't identify it. It's nothing that I can be like, I mean, look, I'm a 90s girl. If it was Eternity for Men, I could tell you.
Okay.
It just smells masculine. Like it almost could be, it might be aftershave. It might not even really be cologne. It could be like aftershave. It just has that like kind of clean, but I don't know, heavy scent that masculine colognes and stuff have, soaps even.
Yeah.
And the first like 4 or 5 days, I noticed it several times, and it did follow me from room to room a couple of times.
Whoa.
It does not make me uncomfortable at all. I'm completely comfortable with it. It definitely felt like it was just like, you're new.
Checking you out. Yeah.
And the other thing, every now and then I've smelled cigarette smoke that I cannot account for any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say, hey, not cool, we don't smoke in this house, it goes away.
Wow.
Like, almost immediately, it just like you go from being able to smell it to it being gone. It's just like, hello, reminder, we talked about the cigarette smoke. The cologne is fine. No cigarette smoke.
Do you know anything about the history of your house?
Nothing specific. I probably should. I know that the girl who lived here before I did said that she had a couple of times that she felt like she was being watched. Which is really interesting because I moved back to my hometown for this house. I literally moved back here because I fell in love with this house.
Yeah.
And from the first night I spent in this house, I was 100% comfortable turning off the lights and walking through the house in the dark by myself. Which I don't know about y'all, but like, that's not, I mean, even in my parents' house where I lived longer than I've lived anywhere else, I still, like, if I'm going to turn off the light and run to my bedroom, I'm going to move it. Like, I may not run, but I'm going to be, like, moving with a purpose.
I do that everywhere I go.
Just walk through the house in the dark. In this house, it has never bothered me. Like, 100%.
I wonder if part of you feels this comfort that you don't really know. I mean, like, just because he's there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I literally instantly, a friend of mine actually shared this listing just because she thought it was a cute house. And I didn't know when I clicked on it that it was in my hometown. I was just like, oh my God, that's my house. I love that house.
Yeah.
And I mean, I called my mom. I saw it on like a Saturday, and I spent a solid 24 hours going, I swear to God, I was never moving back to that town. And then Sunday I called my mom and I was like, I need you to go look at a house for me. And she's like, where? I'm like, there. She's like, you swore you were never moving back to this town.
So you were like pulled to the house.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I moved here. I mean, my mom's like, yeah, she loves me, but she moved here for this house. Which is true.
I think that this is my theory, that whoever this man is that you're sensing and smelling, maybe in like your past lives, he was someone really important to you. You know,
so. I have definitely had one past life memory that I can't tell you anything about it except that it was like when it happened, there was no question in my mind that that's what that was.
Wow.
When did you have this?
Yeah.
It was probably 10 years ago, and I was actually working. I was in school, but I worked on campus just doing data entry, so it's super mindless. I was working, listening to music. It was a song that triggered it.
Wow. So it was just like a memory that came to you that you're like, I remember this.
Like, when if you listen to a song that like immediately reminds you of something, like you can immediately see it like a movie.
Yeah.
It was like that, except it wasn't my memory. Like it wasn't my current time period memory.
So you don't remember anything about it?
I remember that the song, Someone to Watch Over Me is the song. And that is 100% what like kicked it off, which is normal for me. I have music memory big time. Mm-hmm. I was, instead of being me, mm-hmm. I was a version of me, I guess.
Yeah.
Sitting in kind of like a restaurant, but it was like a nightclub atmosphere, but it was definitely mm-hmm. more of a restaurant. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't really tell you what the time period was, except men dressed way nicer than men dressed. Not everybody dressed way nicer.
Yeah.
I could see that I had on a red dress.
Wow.
Interesting.
But I don't, and I was looking, like, I remember hearing the song, and I was just kind of, the memory was just like looking over this room and seeing a person that I recognized, and that's it.
Wow.
It was just
so cool.
Just like I said, just like a normal memory, except mm-hmm. I know that's not from my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of low key mad you've never told me this before, but I'll forgive you.
So I mean, maybe that's exactly what that is. Maybe that's a past life connection.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's very laid back. It doesn't, like I said, I've never felt uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Even during like certain times. No. I just feel like that's what I would think about.
No, you know what? I never even thought about it. I've never felt uncomfortable in this house at all.
That's amazing. That house is
that's
like
really
your perfect
good.
fit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like destiny, destined to be yours.
That's definitely how it seems. And in fact, mm-hmm. I didn't know this. It looks like a house that my great grandmother lived in, that my mom, like, I don't know if she ever lived there. I know they lived in the same town. But the front of it looks like my granny's house.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of I constantly do things that make note, like, she died when I was 4 or 5. And my favorite flower is her favorite flower. Like I do, what is it that my mom told me? Oh, I like molasses on my biscuits. And that's something my granny did.
Oh.
Just weird stuff, like weird, like, for some reason, I seem to have some connection to her. When my mom said, yeah, your house looks like Granny's house. It's like, well, that's interesting. Which I've never even seen that house. The house is literally not there anymore, if I remember correctly.
I feel like you, of all people, I mean, I definitely want to, but you need to go do a past life regression session with somebody.
I've thought about it. I get a little weird about stuff like that, and like hypnosis and stuff like that. I'm like, mm-hmm. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with somebody poking in my brain.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, maybe I've seen Stir of Echoes one too many times.
I thought you were going to say Get Out.
No. And I'm sure, Caroline, have you seen Stir of Echoes?
No. You know I haven't. I am not a movie person.
I'm not a movie person either.
Great, guys. Okay, well, in case anybody's interested, Stir of Echoes is probably circa 2002.
Okay, so
no.
7.
2000, maybe. It's Kevin Bacon, and it's hypnosis-induced haunting.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
I will probably watch that, actually.
You should watch it. It's a great movie. And I mean, how can you go wrong with Kevin Bacon? He's great.
Yeah.
Will you message me right now and the name of that so I don't forget it? Because I will.
Yes.
My husband actually bought me, well, we never went through with it because 2020, but my birthday last year, he was going to do like a past life regression session. We were going to do it together just to kind of see like where we both were in our past lives. We just never did it because quarantine, but hopefully we will one day. I love that as like we've been together for 11 years. He's slowly starting to like get into the weird shit with me.
Yep. Same with my husband.
Yeah, like I don't know if you're into astrology, but my husband's an Aquarius, and like he should
love Aquarius.
Yeah, I'm so attracted to Aquarius.
When you were talking about you and your husband, I was waiting for Caroline to be like, okay, wait, what's your sign? What's his sign?
Wait, what is your husband's sign?
Okay, I love astrology too. I'm glad we're talking about this. I'm really into astrology. So I'm a Cancer, and my husband is actually a Leo, which typically don't really mesh.
My parents had their 50th wedding anniversary this week. My mom is a Cancer. My dad is a Leo.
Oh my
God. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I think like me and my husband are still compatible. I mean, we definitely butt heads over certain things like most couples do. But so I have an Aquarius moon and he has a Cancer moon. So Cancer moon to my Cancer sun kind of complements each other. And then Leo and Aquarius are opposites. So my Aquarius moon kind of like complements his Leo sun. And then we're both Scorpio risings. So.
Oh, that's cool.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. So I think we go. And it's also interesting because a lot of people in my family are Scorpio risings. So me, my husband, my son, and both of my sisters are Scorpio risings.
I think I heard you talk about that in one of your podcasts one time.
Yeah.
What's your son's sign?
He's a Pisces. Okay. I can tell a quick story about him, and I know I have a psychic connection to him. So,
oh my God, I want to hear it.
Yeah. So I actually had a dream where I met a spirit guide a couple of years ago. And it was the most like vivid, intense dream I have ever had. And it was in my old house where I spent the majority of my life, like growing up in this one particular house. All of my dreams end up in this house. But I was there and it started off a little creepy, and I went to go look out the back window, and like the window was open and there was this guy trying to like come in the house, and it was just me and my husband in the house in the dream at the time. And so I went downstairs to like, see who this guy was. And then eventually we opened the door for him, even though I was hesitant because I'm like, who's this guy showing up? But he said he was a relative, and I was like, okay. And then he like kept encouraging me to come out in the backyard with him. And so I did. And then he was basically like this angelic angel, like an angelic figure, and I was really drawn to him. And I'm not sure if it was like the spirit of that would be my son currently, or if it was just like a spirit guide, or really what it was, but it was like this intense connection I had with this being. And they like put their arm around me and they were like, look at the stars. And then I was trying to ask them when their birthday was, because this is what I do in dreams. I'm like trying to like figure out details, like, when's your birthday? Are you a real person? Who are you? And the guy wouldn't answer me. I remember his eyes being like really striking to me too, like really blue, striking eyes. And then eventually he did answer me, and he said, it's the end of February. And I was like, okay, but he wouldn't really tell me when. And my son, when I was due with him, I was actually due in April. But he was born early. He was born February 26th.
Wow.
Like,
I just got chilled.
Surprised. Yeah. Like totally, just, I was sitting there eating lunch and all of a sudden my water broke and I was like, yikes. Luckily, he's okay. He was born 6 weeks early. He's totally fine now. He spent a little time, in the hospital right before COVID happened. Thankfully, he was out right when COVID was like shutting everything down.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So there was just a wild situation, but I always think back to that dream, like, because that dream really stuck with me. And like just the fact that he was like, oh, the end of February, and he was a relative, and it was just like this really wonderful connection I had with this being that I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I like it. And it's like now that my son's born, it's like I kind of feel that same energy. Like I'm like, I always knew I would have a Pisces son too. Like I just always had that feeling. And when I was due in April, I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to have a Pisces son. I had no idea that would happen.
Wow. So what color eyes are your sons? Because you said this guy had the blue eyes.
Yeah. So my son did have blue eyes, and now they're kind of changing to hazel, which sometimes can happen with kids, but his eyes were blue when he was born. So
That's so amazing. That's such an awesome story that you're going to be able to tell him one day.
I know. Oh, he's going to be my little psychic
so that
boy.
When he's 12 or 13, he can be like, yeah, right.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. He'll be so annoyed of me.
You're like, okay, it's crazy. It's fine.
Yep. I'm sure he'll go through that phase, but I have hope that he will embrace his, kind of weird spiritual side like I do.
You never know. He might be one of those kids that is never like that and is always just kind of like, cool, I guess.
Yeah. You never know. So, yeah, I always think back to that. It's really kind of a cool thing.
That is very
cool. Awesome story.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have anything cool like that. Sorry.
You're going to have to go do your past life regression. That's just all there is to it. Obviously.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, I will tell everybody about it once I do it. I get where you're coming from with the hypnosis and like letting someone poke at your mind, but
yeah, it's kind of scary.
I think my draw to knowing about my past life is bigger than my fear of that.
If I were going to do it, I would do it with someone else there who was there to basically watch me and know that I'm taken care of while somebody's hypnotizing me.
Yeah, well, that's the idea of like Rich and I being in it together and just like taking turns doing it. Yeah.
That,
would you guys ever do
bother me so much, but like just going on your own, I'm like,
No,
I don't have that kind of trust.
Would you do it, Abby?
I would. I have looked into it before, and the only reason I haven't is because it was kind of expensive. The one that I was looking at to get it done is kind of expensive, and I tend to, I think earlier that year I had gotten some kind of psychic reading, angel card reading that was already pretty expensive. So I was like, I'm going to wait a while on this past life regression thing. But it's definitely something I would do. Like, I'm very curious about it too, because I've seen videos of people getting it done and it's very fascinating. Like, it just seems like they really do like remember things and they have this profound experience.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me because I have tried to meditate. I don't know if it's just I have so much shit in my mind that I feel like I can't. So to think that it's possible for somebody else to get me to that point, I'm kind of skeptical at the same time.
Could someone hypnotize me to believe that I get 8 solid hours of sleep every night?
Same.
That would be great.
Could someone hypnotize me to like, it's like put the fucking burrito down and stop eating the burritos?
That I love the burritos.
Anyway, yeah, so we like reached an hour and we were gonna do hauntings, but I think this was such a great episode, just like talking about our experiences.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Such an organic progression through all of that.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll have to have it on again, maybe once we all do our past life regressions, or
I would love that.
Or to just talk about astrology, because Susan.
You know what? The other thing is, I think part of me doesn't necessarily want to do a regression, because part of me is like, if I can have one memory on my own, I can have more than one. Like, I just sort of keep hoping something else will just like have that little like
we'll spark it to have another one.
I was going to say something when you were talking about your past, your like memory that you had. So you know that I'm really like big into the idea that you can jump, to different. And I just wonder if that could have possibly been like this glitch where you like, or did it feel?
No, it didn't. It felt like having a memory of something that you've experienced. Just like, I don't know. I can't even think of a.
I mean, there's probably no way to explain it. Like,
it's any other memory that like when you hear a song and then you can immediately like put yourself into a very specific place, a very specific time. Like, that song just immediately brings back that moment. It was exactly like that. It's just that I knew that wasn't something that's happened to me since I was born in 1979. Like, it was earlier than that. And it just and I just know it wasn't my memory. But yet it still was.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Very interesting. And it literally was just like I just kind of stopped what I was doing and sat there for a second like, okay. Didn't even know that was a thing that was going to happen ever.
I hope it happens again because I want to hear about it.
Ooh.
Abby, do you want to plug your social media and your podcast?
Yeah, sure. So my podcast is called Portal 8 Podcast, and I do episodes, of course, about pop culture and specifically the Bachelor franchise shows. But I also do paranormal episodes all about ghosts and aliens and astrology and cryptids and anything kind of, mysterious. So on Tuesdays I have my my pop culture episodes, and then on Thursdays I have the paranormal episodes. And yeah, it's really fun. I like being able to do two things that I'm really interested in and just making it all one podcast. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. That's where I am the most active and post the most. It's at Portal Podcast. And then on Twitter, I'm at Portal 8 Podcast. And then my podcast is available on all the major podcast platforms. Awesome. And then real quick, I'll tell you all what the name means, what Portal 8 means. So, because not a lot of people know, and some people don't even realize that it's Portal 8, but I chose the 8 because of the 8th house in astrology is kind of the house of like Scorpio. It's associated with Scorpio, and it's house of mystery, hidden things, just like investigative sort of vibes with it. And then Portal is just like a creepy doorway. A mysterious thing that sucks you in, and I feel like I'm very drawn to the paranormal and kind of the occult topics, and I'm also very sucked in and drawn to the reality television world, so it's perfect.
A mix of both worlds. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy that we had you on.
It was
thank you.
Talk to you.
Yep, everybody go listen to Portal 8, and
awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. It was so nice to meet you both.
You too. Bye, Abby.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for the continued support. Please find and follow us at Wild and Woke Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We have a great page on Facebook at facebook.com/Wild and Woke Podcast. If you're looking for bonus content, early episode releases, and free merch, find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Wild and Woke Podcast. If you have any weird, creepy, or wow, I can't believe this fucking happened to me moments, please reach out because we want to share them at wildandwokepodcast@gmail.com.
And remember, all stories start somewhere. Be wild, stay woke, and question everything.